The world continues to witness a strange picture of humanity trying to come to an agreement with a perverted maniac. For some unknown reason, the Americans decided that the Russians could be pacified. But endlessly banging your head against the wall leads to nothing, because there is one stumbling block in the negotiation process: Donbas. The Pale Ghoul wants the Ukrainian Defense Forces to surrender, without a fight, all the administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Naturally, in response, he gets a big TNT pumpkin and 1,000 eliminated occupiers per day.
If my grandmother, had the external genitalia of a grandfather, a man, she would be a grandfather, not a grandmother.
The Kremlin is digging in and will only agree to a ceasefire if it gets the whole of Donbas. For this, they've set the meat grinder running in 3 shifts, and the propaganda has reached cosmic heights. Putin and his generals openly lie almost every day about successes on the front, encirclements of millions of Ukrainians, and the capture of hundreds of cities per second. All just to impress the impressionable minds of American realtors.
The West Group has liberated the city of Kupiansk and continues to destroy the formations of the armed forces of Ukraine, which are encircled on the left bank of the Oskil River.
But as often happens, a gigantic lie always turns into a gigantic disgrace. While the Botox toad, smacking its lips, fantasizes that Donbas is about to fall and the front will collapse all the way to the English Channel, the president of Ukraine arrives in Kupiansk, which has already been occupied by Russia for a month. And there, he dunks the Kremlin grandpa into a vat with the contents of his briefcase.
Today, the Kupiansk direction. Our soldiers here are achieving results for Ukraine. The Russians talked a lot about Kupiansk. We see this. I was there, congratulated the guys. Thanks to every unit.
The same goes for other directions. Fighting is still ongoing in Pokrovsk. And for those who don't know and don't watch, Putin has also long since captured Russian television. As a result, the cities taken on credit are now being seized with the bodies of an incredible number of patriotic people.
All right, we're heading out for the assault. Here you go, salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum, respect to the high ground.
That's it, Commander, we'll come back.
We're sitting here, I'm wounded, Raspiznoy is killed, Shrem is bleeding out, and the birds won't let us approach. During the assault, they didn't let us get close to the house. Here we are, just sitting. Shrem has probably bled out. And once more, there is absolutely no sign of life. The young kid, with his unwavering loyalty, stayed behind, diligently and carefully bandaging me up, ensuring my wounds were properly attended to. This is truly life, my dear brother, in all its raw and unpredictable essence.
After 4 years of war, all the original goals have faded and been forgotten. The special military operation. Now hundreds of thousands of Russians are dying for the capture of Kramatorsk. This is Russia's great goal, the occupation of Donbas. But the real question is, why does Russia need Donbas? And more importantly, why do the people of Donbas Russia? Recently, Putin made a blunder and claimed that a huge number of people are waiting for the Russian army in the occupied territories. In
the combat zone, in the various settlements where our brave troops courageously enter, there are quite a significant number of innocent civilians. When our dedicated soldiers respectfully ask them why they did not leave in a timely manner, their heartfelt answer is very simple and profoundly clear. We were waiting patiently for you.
This is not just a lie, it's a cynical mockery of the millions of people who were forced to flee from this twisted Russian love. According to official statistics, less than 1% of the population remains in the occupied territories. Mostly these are elderly people who physically could not leave. There are towns where literally only one resident remains. One!
Now we're going to visit the only resident of the city of Marinka who was the very first to return there. Let's see how this citizen lives.
And once again, we return to the question, why does Russia want Donbas? To turn it into a desert or a dump? We can look at the territories that have already been occupied for 10 years. Almost all enterprises have been liquidated and dismantled. The mines are closed, and the infrastructure is ruined beyond repair.
This is the kind of water we have coming into the country today. At Building 17, Micro District 3...
Pay attention to the color of the water. This shows that the pipes are completely rusted through. The utilities are 10 years old. No one has maintained them. The occupiers simply abandoned the region. Before Russia came, the tap water in Donetsk was clear and people drank it straight from the tap.
No way.
Even the attempt to turn Mariupol into a showcase of the Russian world failed spectacularly. All those showy construction projects and the so-called restoration of the bombed-out city turned out to be a sham and a fake. In
a few words, what's going on with the building now? With
the building, absolutely nothing. The building has been waiting for restoration for 3 years. Well, as you can see, the facade is nice. You can take a look. They're landscaping the yard. The only question is, who are they landscaping it for? 2.5 entrances are still burned out, just like before. Inside, all the apartments are burned. If you want, we can, yes, even go inside. If you really want to, we can go in. But for what purpose? Because, well, we just don't have the strength or patience left anymore. It's been 3 years, that's it. There are elderly residents, little children. My own child was 4 years old when the special military operation started. The child wants to go back to their own room. But we can't let the child have their own room because, you see, this is how shamelessly we're being treated. It's been 3 years, and soon it'll be the 4th.
In Mariupol, at least they're painting the facades. But the other destroyed cities of Donbas won't be rebuilt at all. The occupiers honestly said so themselves. The cities have been liberated to such an extent that they can no longer be considered livable.
Some sparsely populated settlements which the commissions, we will decide not to restore them, but rather to preserve them as they are and turn them into museums as a warning for future generations. It's obvious that not all villages will be rebuilt. Many villages, especially the small ones, definitely won't be restored by anyone. A huge number of people, in fact, will never return. In some areas now, there are 9 women for every man. 9 women, 1 guy.
But official propaganda and the Kremlin's Führer himself keep repeating that they came to protect the Russian residents of Donbas, who supposedly suffered for decades under Ukrainian oppression. And then there's all the usual nonsense about these being originally Russian lands, which Moscow isn't capturing, but liberating.
There won't even be any defensive structures left there at all. The Russians will slowly but surely bite off, seize, and then move on, recapture, and ultimately return it to their control.
You're an imbecile.
Donbas wasn't just never Russian. It was a completely foreign and incomprehensible land for Russians. Until the 17th century, Donbas was known as the Wild Field. It was controlled by nomads who were gradually pushed out by Ukrainian, Zaporizhian, and Sloboda Cossacks. Until the end of the 18th century, Donbas was part of the state of the Zaporizhian host and was subordinate to the Sich. It was Ukrainians who founded settlements and fortresses here. Soledar is one of the first major Cossack towns. Only after the liquidation of the Zaporizhian Sich in 1775 did the Russian Empire incorporate these lands into its administrative system. But even as part of the so-called empire, the overwhelming majority of the population were ethnic Ukrainians. Of course, there were Russians as well, mostly former soldiers and runaway peasants. What does this tell us? It tells us that those in Donbas were newcomers from other regions, and historically there was no Russian spirit here at all.
Many residents from the Russian heartland will want to live in these fertile lands. These are without a doubt fertile lands. When life gradually becomes simpler, settles down, as I like to say, I think many people will move there.
At the time of the collapse of the pseudo-empire in 1917, Ukrainians still made up the majority. And when the Tsar submitted his resignation letter, almost all of Donbas became part of the Ukrainian People's Republic. And after the end of the Civil War, it remained part of Soviet Ukraine. So all these crazy Hawthorne-infused tales about Lenin gifting Donbas are good for one thing. Maybe just for small talk in some Saratov dumpling shop. Yeah.
What, you don't know whose land this is?
This is Russian land. Meadows! Russian land! Russia!
Ukraine. Russian.
Ukraine! Police beyond the Dnipro! Pack up your... and go there!
Yeah? Go sail away with the Russian warship, I'm telling you again. I'm sending you off after what you just said. That's it.
That's all. And you too, along with us!
With it.
Donbas has always been Ukrainian specifically, and even in the empire it was considered part of Ukraine. Of course, the Soviet occupiers tried to deal with the Ukrainian majority. After the Holodomor repressions, they began to bring in droves of so-called true Prokhorovs and Aglayas from the hinterlands. There really were more Russian-speaking mouths, but even after the genocide, according to the 1939 census, Ukrainians still remained the majority. More than 60% of the population. Twice as many as Russians.
Twice as many?
After World War II, Donbas became even more Ukrainian, and even a little bit Banderite. By a cruel irony of fate, this was also influenced by Moscow's genocidal policies. As a result of the large-scale forced deportation of Ukrainians carried out by Poland and the Soviets in the 1940s and 1950s, residents from the western regions were relocated to Donbas. Today, the descendants of the Lemkos and Boykos continue to preserve their culture and authenticity. In Donbas, entire towns and villages remain Ukrainian-speaking. The idea of a totally Russian-speaking Donbas is nonsense, it's a myth. And it's actually a pretty recent one, invented during Putin's time.
I mean, do you hear the kind of nonsense they're spreading? You get it? It's not even clear where these people who spread such information came from. It's just some kind of disaster.
Before the occupiers arrived, Donbas was the most prosperous region of Ukraine. The phrase Donetsk people was synonymous with rich kids. There was major industry, developed infrastructure, and some of the highest salaries. But now it's a dying region. A scorched land, where instead of Beyoncé coming to perform, you get Crocodile Chicharina and Vika Tsiganova. The way Russia treats the people in cities of Donbas only proves that, to them, this is a foreign, hostile land.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.